Well, having promised a skirmish at the end of the last video, I have to disappoint everybody. I'd misread the rules wrong. The skirmish result gives the option to carry out a limited battle if the active task force, i.e. my task force, is faster than the target task force. But the Gneisenau is a fast ship, so that doesn't apply. There is no skirmish. Nonetheless, the Gneisenau was converted into a station, so we've obviously pinpointed it there. I now have to time lapse. Obviously, there's an intel marker here, so I'm limited. If I'm going to remove that intel marker, I can only remove 2 segments, which would take me out of the hex. So I'm going to remove these 2. That's the maximum I can receive because of the intel limit. So at the end of that, we now get the opportunity for the Germans to seize initiative. Again, let's roll to see whether they try to seize initiative or claim an evasive marker. They do try and seize initiative. They've got a +1, so they need 8 or more to seize the initiative. With that modifier, they don't succeed. They're going to get an additional bonus when they try to seize initiative next time. I'm now going to try and engage in this hex. I'm obviously the active task force. I'm going to try and engage this task force. I'm going to be supported with air support from Scarpa Flow. Let's work this one out. I have air support, which gives me a +2 modifier when it's the support is from an adjacent hex. The contact marker on the Gneisenau, it's a fast ship, so that gives me another +2. The evasive markers modifier is not going to apply because the Germans don't have an evasive marker attached to the task force, and there are no coordinating task forces. The trajectory is a 1, so I'm looking in the second column. Again, you can't see the engage table. You just have to take my word on this. I've got +4 to the die roll. Oh, but before then, I beg your pardon. Before, we're going to scratch that die roll, because before then, because there's an intel marker attached to my task force, the Germans can interrupt on the interrupt table. So let's roll against that. There's 1 intel marker attached. So that is a die roll of 7. 7 gives a -1 to modifier, so we're going to knock the modifier down to +3. So I'm now rolling with a +3 modifier. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in the engage 1 column, and the result is battle. So we are going to have a battle. So let's move everything over to the battle board. Let's bring that in. Let's line things up. I'll put the Gneisenau. I think you can hopefully see that. The Gneisenau up there. And now, because everything has been off camera, it takes a bit of table space, this game. Start to see for the first time the size of this task force. Sorry, let's just adjust that so it's clear. Sorry about that. So we have my big ship is the Repulse with Admiral Forbes, who allows me to modify 1 die roll. 3 cruisers, the Sheffield, the Suffolk and the London, and a light cruiser, the Aurora. So let's work through the battle process. I'm just going to get the rules. I'm not sure what the Germans are going to try and do is remain as distant as possible. They're not going to want me, or they're certainly not going to close up. They're going to attempt to avoid battle whenever they can. And they're certainly going to try and break away after the first battle round. So let's have those rules ready. So the first stage in a battle is gunnery. So this effectively takes place simultaneously. Obviously, we can't roll the dice simultaneously, but the effects are simultaneous. We're at long range. We're at extreme range. So for each ship that fires, we roll 3 dice and take the 2 lowest. So the Gneisenau, let's roll the dice for the Gneisenau. So 3 dice, then there is no smoke, so there's no modifier from smoke. The target, if it is slow or very slow, there's a difference, but otherwise it's just the attacker's gun value. Well, the Gneisenau has a a gun value at extreme or long range of +2. Yep. So +2 for the Germans, and they're going to have a go at the repulse. Let's see if we can take out their biggest ship or cause damage to the biggest ship. When I say we, if the Germans can cause damage to the biggest ship, all well and good. So 3 dice, we take the 2 lowest. Well, that's a good roll. That's 9 +2 for the gun value, 10, 11. That is a hit. So the repulse has taken a hit, but it's not yet damaged. But that is the Germans' 1 attack. We're in battle round 1. The round will last 3 rounds unless somebody manages to break away. So now we managed to have a shot back. Well, let's start with the repulse. Again, 3 dice, lowest 2. It's got gunnery of 1. So +1 for the 2 lowest, +1, 8. 8 or less is a splash. Now we'll work through the cruisers. So the Sheffield, no gunnery bonus this time, so it is just simply 3 dice, the 2 lowest. 3, miss. The Suffolk, miss. The London, a miss. And the Aurora gets a -1 and a miss. So, end of round 1. The only one who's caused any damage was the Gneisenau on the repulse. At this point, we go to, let me just double check, get it right, the maneuver. So the British, I think we are going to close in. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm that keen about the repulse taking too much damage. I'm going to move in my cruisers. Be rather cowardly here and keep the repulse back and stop the Gneisenau firing at it. Yeah, the Gneisenau stays distant, but first of all it is going to try and break away. So, break away. Either player may announce that they intend to exit the battle, while the Solo rules say that the Germans will, if there is a battleship in the opposing. The breakaway modifiers +2 if all your ships are in the far zone while the Germans are in the far zone. -1 if you have the slowest ship, which you don't, or -1 if one or more of your opponent's ships are in the near or close. Well, their ships are in the near, so that +2 is reduced to a +1. A 9 modified, or in this instance an 8, will allow the Gneisenau to break away. So +1 to this die roll. The breakaway is successful, having fired its shots, slowed up, or certainly startled the British. The Gneisenau has managed to break away, and battle ends there. So a single quick shot at each other, and the ships have moved on. The Repulse has taken a bit of surface damage. It's not a damaged ship because it can take 2 hits before it becomes a damaged ship. I could have used Forge's ability there to re-roll a dice earlier on, but anyway, not to worry. When the battle ends, ships still on the battle board return to their respective task forces, which we've done, and both task forces must now be marked with a contact marker, and both must revert to stations if not already stations. So that's obviously logical. We know precisely where we are. So let's put the marker there. Contact against both of us. That brings the engage action to an end. At the end of the engage action, all tasks forces time lapse if appropriate. Well, it doesn't matter, and we now vie for initiative. The Germans have a +2 on this, so the Germans have managed to seize back the initiative after that short and brief encounter.